And good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. I've got a lot of thinking done since yesterday when DW and I were just talking about me coming on the call today. And in this particular subject that he wanted me to cover, and that is my favorite product. Well, that's a very easy one for me to say. It's the age pill. I've developed a lot of formulations in my life. In fact, of course, a lot of these go into cosmetics and even color cosmetics, but probably 500 or 600 formulations that I've personally developed. And some of them have, they've got a place, such as color cosmetics, and our theme has always been Sisel say. So like lipstick has average 29 toxins in them, and we mean toxic-free lipstick. So we thought kissing lipstick should be intoxicating, not toxic. So we got away from that, got into that theme, and it certainly carried us a long ways. And then quite a number of years back, I came across a discovery from ancient China, and it was for longevity and restoration of longevity. And so I was skeptical at first, and this isn't actually my first dietary supplement product, but they had scientific studies on it. And when I read them, they were so convincing. I'll go through the whole story how I got a hold of them, because back then there was no internet. But actually somebody brought it to me. So anyway, with that, I started to research it, and I thought, in my mind's eye, I was up to the point, like many of you may have been, and many people are in this country, and the FDA and big pharma would like us to think we are, and that is, I mistakenly thought, that you get all the vitamins and minerals and nutrients you need in the food that you ate. Well, now I found out that's not true. The soils are 75% depleted. The foods are mostly hollow foods. They have to fertilize them to get them big. And that's why strawberries taste as plain as bread. Now they've lost their flavor and all of that because they're just pumped up through stimulation from the fertilizer, and the contents of it are a fraction of what they were. Well, as those things degrade, of course, in the soil, what's in the soil is in the food. What's in the food is what's in you. And as a consequence, we can't eat enough. It would take, for what our ancestors had, say, 150 years ago, when soil was 100% there, on average, a plate of food would usually satisfy somebody. And now, to get the same equivalent nutritional value, if you could, and then let's not even talk about things like Roundup and other toxin things that are in so much of it. Baby cereal's full of it, and breakfast cereals and things like that. But let's not even talk about that. But to get to enough nutrients, you'd have to eat 4 plates of food a day, or at a meal. Who could do that other than DW? It's not feasible. And so as a result, you need to supplement. Well, this study went far beyond that from China. And they had found this is a kind of an interesting story. They were excavating in China. There are tombs and there are pyramids in China, just like there were in Egypt. Only the Chinese had a real respect and revered the dead, and tombs in China weren't looted as they were in Egypt and places like that. So they decided to excavate 2 tombs, and the ones they were going to excavate were in the Ming Dynasty, so they're in the Beijing area with it. But the kingdoms of China are all around China, so there's lots. And in fact, as maybe you've seen one of the 10,000 warriors, that full-size replicas, individually made, that were in the first emperor of China's tomb. And that's only partially. I haven't got into the tomb yet. The pyramid's still there. It's supposed to be spectacular inside. I won't read or tell you all about it, but if you ever read about it, it's really quite, and you can see about it, it's quite incomprehensible. But because of that kind of thing, when I decided to open and excavate the first one they did was the second emperor of the Ming Dynasty, Ming Chenzu. And when they opened his tomb, it was very interesting because he had the area where his sarcophagus was, and it was walled off from the other areas where his wife and his concubines were kept, parallel to it. So it surprised me to think I'd want to be buried in the same room where they're walled off, but Chinese, and of course you know how things like that go. But nonetheless, he was buried by himself. But when they opened his sarcophagus, they found him holding an ancient manuscript. This manuscript went back through the time of what they call the Yellow Emperor, which was over 3,000 years before Christ. And in this one, it talked about how to extend life greatly, how to regenerate a lot of youth and energy and vitality. And at first I thought, oh yeah, ancient Chinese secret. But they had substantial testing, clinical testing. They had been doing it because China had evolved to that point where they were looking at what was there, and of course looking for the value in health, but also the economic value. So at that time, people didn't really go to China. People didn't really buy from China much. And I read the article, the more I read about it, the more I became convinced that if there was one nation on earth that would have kept a historical record in great detail and brought it through the last 6,000 years or so, or longer, because remember the Yellow Emperor's book was written 3000 BC, was a compilation of all the science that had been developed for thousands of years before that in natural healing, natural medicine. So I thought if there's one country, one civilization that would be able to do that, it would be China, because they're the country that was really only conquered once by the Mongols, and when that happened and Genghis Khan went in, they didn't destroy the infrastructure at all because it was so profitable and so valuable to them that they left the culture intact and all the information and everything else. So those are amazing things historically to think of, because usually when a civilization is destroyed or conquered, most of its technologies and things like that and histories are destroyed. So anyway, I thought this is really possible. So I researched it, found a Chinese here in America that was a resident and was here at going to school at one of the universities, but he was from Shanghai. So I hired him, sent him back to China to investigate this, and I gave him the information that I wanted because it was quite interesting. He brought me back the formulation, and he'd met with the government. And that time, the Army run everything with it. There was no skyscrapers anywhere in those big cities, but it was just on the edge of the evolution forward, which they'd come through on the basis of our American economy, of course, and the world economy to a degree. But nonetheless, he came back and he had the formula, he had a report from it, and so I was still skeptical. I didn't fall off no turnip truck, and I told him I was from Missouri, and he didn't know what that meant. But I said, I've got to find out if it's truthful or not. And the proof of the pudding, you've heard, the proof is in the pudding. That isn't the saying. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. That's the saying. So even though it looks good on paper, even though the story is good and glamorous, does it play in Peoria? Those are American statements. You can't already say those to Chinese. But the important thing was that I wanted to make sure that it worked. And the best thing about me is there's no placebo effect. With a lot of people, there are real big placebo effects. If you look at things like noni, Tahitian noni, and if you look at mangosteen, and a lot of products like that, there was a huge, I won't even go to some of them because we private label for was colored water or not, because they want to. That's the placebo effect. That's why a yellow pill works about 25% better than a green pill or a blue pill, just because of the placebo effect. And so, and that's why women that have terminal breast cancer study come in, that those that are have positive mental attitude and they work at that live twice as long, even though they're terminally ill, than the ones who are not, who are into depression. So that, I just say that for illustrating that, and that's probably going too much, wasting time. But for me, the placebo effect is a detriment. It's a positive in building the business, because you certainly want that, and we definitely want that going for us in Sisel, because it's undeniable anyway. But there's one other thing I want to do is to make something that just doesn't sound good, that it is spectacular. I don't want to make the best product in the world. I might want to make the product that is vastly superior to anything else ever created. That's where my personal nature goes. That sounds like, a broad vision of what's there, and I guess it is. But I'm doing what comes naturally. It's the way that I'm built, and the things that I like to do. And with that, I realize the most important part of our entire business is you. You're the most important component. Everything we do is for you. The compensation plan is designed to make you successful, to make you prosperous or wealthy. And it's up to you to do, but it's there, and we've designed it, and I'm sharing the wealth, so you have all of that. And the same thing about the products. The products are designed to help you. I mean, they help you to shampoo and brush your teeth and many other types of things that you can do. But the one thing that we really want out of products is things, well, we do. We want it in personal care and spectacular products for the skin, and we've got that. But we're about to put skincare products on warp drive. You're going to see over the next probably 3 or 4 months incredible improvements, new discoveries that no one is using. I found out how to turn off the age switch in skin. So when skin's damaged, there's a DNA trigger that takes place, and I found out how to unlock that, to turn it off instead of turning it on. And so we're going to see some things happening here in skincare that you're going to see in 2 weeks. It will be undeniable the changes that are happening on your skin. For some, even fast, but 2 weeks is pretty doggone fast, especially when you look at all the big name brand cosmetics selling for $100 a bottle, and after you use them for a lifetime, you're better off if you didn't use them. So I am on a quest to do things that not are the best, but that are vastly superior, the very best that technology makes possible. So when it comes to supplements, there are so many human conditions that we have, and they all come about, or at least almost all of them, there are some genetic ones, but almost all of them come about because of a degeneration. That degeneration takes place at the cellular level. That cellular level is the stem cell itself. So you have about 220 different groups of stem cells, and they create all the replacement cells that you produce to make muscle, and they get worn out and discarded, so they have to be replaced. But over a period of time, you're oxidizing glucose or sugars, just like gasoline, in every cell in your body, and in the stem cells especially. It's important because they duplicate so much. And so with oxidation, there's oxidation, or there's a corrosive nature that's called ROS with it, and that really destroys and damages the tissues. And the biggest thing that we're finding right now within this past 6 months is that major factor is mitochondrial dysfunction. You may not understand what all that is, but I'll give you a brief synopsis of it. Mitochondria, have hundreds of them in each cell in your body, and they take in oxygen and glucose, and just like gasoline and oxygen in your engine is ignited and creates energy, that happens at the cellular level. The glucose, which is the energy level, there's a lot of energy in glucose, and oxygen then has a spark that is ignited within the cell. When that happens, then you create energy. But when that happens, you also have oxidation, and the oxygen molecule it comes in as O2, and when it splits to O1, it's extremely corrosive. And so it starts oxidizing, rusting tissues within all of your cells, but stem cells is one we're primarily concerned about, because stem cells can repair everything, virtually, other than genetic damage. But with that oxidation that takes place within the mitochondria can really become quite pronounced because it's creating so much energy for all of this tremendous duplication rate that the stem cells have to provide. And so you get more rusting, more corrosion, more ROS damage. And as it goes down, the rate of duplication goes down. As that goes down, you're into aging, which is degeneration and decay. That's the cause of aging. So you're producing less stem cells or less replacement cells from your stem cells than you're losing. See? So you lose more, replace less, and that gets disproportionately worse. And you can even look at it incrementally in 10 years periods of time, and you see where it is when you're 18 or 20. You're at your peak, your stem cell function, and with it, by the time that you're just 10 years older, by the time you're 30, you're down to 80%. When you're 40, just 10 years later, you're down to 40%. When you're 50, you're down to 20%, and in your 60s, you go down to 5% and less, and decreasing all through the rest of your life. So that kind of loss of functionality is why aging accelerates. The longer you live, the faster you age. Just like a slippery slide. Start off at the top, you're not going very fast. By the time you get to the bottom, you're really moving. And that's the way that aging works. So a lot of these processes weren't known. Science didn't have the ability to discover it. But within the last, particularly 5 years, they've been able to get their technologies to where they can look within the cellular level to see what's happening, what the systems are, what even organella within a cell, they didn't know what these different parts and functions were for. Now they're learning it, they understand enough of it and how the processes are happening that we have really good knowledge. It'll get better, but it's still very good now, especially compared to when I started, when there was very little other than clinical trials. And so anyway, with that, this formulation from China was working to repair mitochondria. And when it repaired mitochondria, then they started to duplicate and function the way that they were. And it would increase the amount of mitochondria within it. I didn't know that for many, many years because science wasn't able to tell us. And then about 20 years ago, it got to that point where I could understand that. But out of that science, other scientists picked up on it too, and they followed through, and they came up to where some of the major, and I can't say the institutions anymore because they're trying to, we can get a warning letter because of a distributor that was advertising this particular prestigious Ivy League hospital, medical center at the university, and they're trying to patent this and make drugs out of this because there's a flippant fortune in ending aging, and along with it, if we're ending aging, then what does that mean? That means that we're now not losing more cells than we're creating. But how about if we flip it on its head, where you've been losing more cells than you are created, to where we take it and you're now creating more cells than you are losing? Is that ending aging? No, that happens when the decline dividing lines crossed in their upward spiral. And beyond that, when you hit that, and you're now producing lots more than you had, you are growing younger. So grow younger with the age pill. That's very comprehensive, and the age pill has a lot of different factors that are involved with it. These companies that are doing it, that are trying to create the miracle molecule, they call it the immortality molecule, is what they call from one of the major universities and some others, and that is what's called NAD+. And that's a combination of niacinamide and ribose. And you might be sort of familiar. Niacinamide is not niacin, it's like it. But that's what creates it. In fact, niacin is converted into nicotinamide in the cells itself. Now, those are not really valuable pieces of information for you to know, but the idea is if you can increase the amount of NAD in the cells have the ability to repair damage and to regenerate. And so, but it's all predicated upon having high levels of NAD they have just recently found. And now they're finding that low levels of NAD, which I just read, are significant. They're the major contribution or cause of, in my opinion, and some other scientists too, but of type 2 diabetes, of Alzheimer's, of heart damage, all of these kinds of, and a lot of other serious diseases with it. So as I looked at this, you think you can overhaul your motor in your car, and that's what mitochondria are with it. But if the rest of the car hasn't been replaced, your brakes are failing, and lights, and heater, and all kinds of things like that, and your car and tires wearing out, you're not going too far. It's the same thing with your cells in your body. If we turn this up to where we have this tremendous energy force, so we're getting the cells themselves. See, what we're selling is a product that are precursors to NAD, and they follow the direct pathway that makes NAD. They're the cells that make NAD, and that's the magic molecule. That's the immortality molecule. And so now that we know what they are, we have a few that are using some complexes like nicotinamide riboside, which is NR and NMN, to do it, but they all come back to niacinamide within the chain, and even those companies are exploiting what the virtues of their product are, and they do have merits. It's not very widely being sold right now, but in comparison to a comprehensive formulation, what we have, it's really a Toyota Corolla against a Ferrari in this world, because we produce immense amounts. There's a chart that goes, and it depends on the amount of precursor that you can have that's converted to NAD, and precursors produce so much NAD, and if you have more precursors, you have more NAD. And so the chart goes, let's say it went from 0 to 100, all the products that are on the market are below 25%. Many of them are 10% of what the potential should be, that can be, that's there. Now, we haven't tested our products, so all we can do is hypothesize, but according to what I understand with this, I would deduce and I would hypothesize. I have to say that because you have to be careful about claims, but our product is designed for the potential to create over 100% of the amount of NAD that you really need in your body. So you have this massive increase with ours, and perhaps a reasonable or very little with some of the others. But that's only part of the story, kind of like a Paul Harvey thing. But anyway, the other parts of the story is as cell metabolism goes on, I mean, it's a little factory and it has a lot of waste. And the cells excrete it, but a certain amount, especially a type of a fat, lipophilic product, they don't get out. They come up time. And it's because it's full of cellular garbage, and it's gooey, and it's thick. And nutrients and things can't get through it. Biological processes, things that are being created in the cell need to be transported to other places, are not effectively done. And so the ability to use this tremendous amount of energy is directly involved in this process. So it can do a lot of energy, but if it's all plugged up, then it's not nearly as successful. The other thing that happens is the mitochondria are oxidizing glucose, and there's hundreds of them. And so when that happens, when you oxidize it, you get a glucose oxide, and it's plaque. And that plaque starts to adhere to the protein surfaces within the cell. When that happens, they start to caramelize and become solid. And now the protein structures which have to move and interact and relate with other things are slowed down and then become dysfunctional. So that's called glycation. So we have glycation, cellular garbage called lipofuscin, and then you have NAD production. So there's the things that you're trying to get at with the things that are causing the problems. So no other product in the world that I know of addresses all three except ours, the H pill. We have a product to support, just like we support the production of NAD+. It supports the internal cells mechanisms that break down this cellular garbage, lipofuscin, by enzymatic activity, and it becomes in such a small form that it will pass from out of the cell. And then we do the same thing with another series of ingredients that are in it. That's why our formula's got so many different things in it. And we come and we take the glycation, the cellular plaque, and there's a mechanism within the cell to do it anyway, just like there is to get rid of lipofuscin. It's just that it gets deteriorated with age and gets plugged up. So now we supercharge that with some powerful precursors so we can remove the plaque. It's like having plaque on your teeth. If you rinsed your mouth every day, you wouldn't get rid of the plaque. You got to brush it off. That's a physical thing. Well, we understand what the plaque is within the cell. There's a way to put precursors that the cell itself has to remove it. It just needs massive support, and that we provide. So there we have a product based upon science that's evolved. How long? 6,000, 8,000 years? I don't know. It goes back a long time. But it's like further refining. It gets better, better, better. Now we're right to that point of where we can not only end aging, we can regenerate youth. And many of the things that are going to happen to us don't have to happen. It's inevitable that we're all going to get dementia. And it's inevitable that 50% of us will get Alzheimer's. And that's what science will tell you. And they're absolutely correct. But it is also now theoretically possible. And I hypothesize this again because I have to be careful about claims, to prevent dementia, to totally reverse dementia, to prevent Alzheimer's, to reverse much of the Alzheimer's. Now, we're just talking about the brain there, but the brain is the most active organ in the body. It uses about 30% of all the oxygen you take in, even though it weighs just over 1% of your body weight. So there's a lot of oxidative damage goes on the brain. So I've built you up to this certain point where you're understanding these things. Now I want to tell you what we're doing that few of you grasp. Maybe I don't think most of you truly do, or you do in some levels. What I've tried to do is take a look at everything when you're young, you feel like you're going to live forever, you have great health and stamina and all of those types of things. Well, we found out in the studies that were done, old animals became younger again. They even started to mate and reproduce. You know what, folks? We're having that happen right now with the distributor force and the customer force. So, Grandma, you better watch out because maybe you ought to go down to your doctor and get some birth control pills or something. of the potential that we could live according to our DNA and the human genome they've done. So if we died in our 70s, we died at middle age because our potential is to live 150. So if we can bring everything back to when we're young, how long do you think we'll live? Do you think we could make 150? I think we could if you're in your 30s, perhaps 40s. For people like myself, DW, a few others, we'll make it probably to 125. But that ain't bad, especially if we're that long and are young. I want to live a long time and die young. And that's what we're trying to do. So, but for me, let's say I started on these things, and maybe I'm beyond 125. I don't know. But the theory is, and the top longevity researchers in the world are saying a person born today should live to be 200 to 300 years in their lifetime because of the technologies that are developed now and the way that it's going and what will happen. And one, Aubrey de Grey, who's the world's expert in it, he's the number one person with the greatest amount of knowledge into this and the most respect and prestige. He says, we'll have people living 500 to 1,000 years. And that sounds a little difficult, isn't it? Because our human genome says that we can only live to be 150. But when you get into it, there are many other factors that are involved there. And they have to do with having the total mechanism to do that is comprised of parts that you need. So the H pill is number one. It can do so much. But then you have damage to other places. And then what controls H pill duplication? It's actually, that's a question I'll just answer myself. It's telomers within the stem cells. Only stem cells have telomers. And they give themselves up so that the replacement cell can weave exactly the same chromosomal structure as the stem cell. But then when it separates, it's identical but without telomers. But every time you produce a new cell, you lose telomere units. And telomere units, which they did not know until probably about 6 months ago, when they researched it, they knew people lived for long ages had longer telomeres. And they found that if they could increase telomere length, they could do a lot of youthful regeneration. And yet, this isn't talking about rebuilding the NAD system. So what's it doing? How does it work? So the idea is they found that it's the igniter. It's like the time clock that tells stem cells when they can duplicate and how often they duplicate. And the shorter the stem cells, the slower the duplication rate. So if you can take something to maintain long stem cells, or you can take something to support the bodies which has the ability to do it, to rebuild the telomers on the chromosomes in the stem cells, then you're going to have it igniting instead of going click, click, click. You're going to go click, 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 until it's just a continuous firing that's taking off within them. So telomers are a big part of this thing. So you can see it's multifaceted. So we didn't talk about just NAD, we went to lipofuscin, glycation. Now we're into telomers with it. So what works for telomers? Well, we have powerful telomere support, and since telomers are so vital, but then you can do a lot of things, but you can never begin to get to where you want without telomers. I've made the most fantastic product based upon tremendous science. Nobel Prize was won on some of the technologies that I'm using, at least the concepts. I usually can't claim to but the things that they got a Nobel Prize for, I have products that are tuned to do just what that was because of science, not because of what I think, it's because of what I found. So now, with telomers, we have TSX. TSX can really do a lot. It's a precursor. And it's a precursor to long telomeres. So that's part of it. Now we come along, anybody that's got a brain? Okay, if you do, they got one that's wearing out fast, and it's probably the most important organ to you. Even if everything else functioned well and you had no brain or not, and you weren't cognizant, you wouldn't have any kind of a life. So we have brain vitality. Brain vitality goes in and supports the body's ability to its own natural mechanisms for restoration, regeneration, that. And the H pill, and this is the key, everything goes better. Well, things go better than Coke. You've heard that. Well, everything goes better with the H pill. So if you got the H pill in there to support the regeneration, the rebuilding of the stem cells within the brain, which are wearing out because of the massive metabolic activity that goes in them, you're going to have all that energy source you need, but you need your telomeres long too. And in brain vitality, we have an ingredient that supports increasing telomerase, the enzyme that makes telomeres. So we have that. It's not as powerful as the system we have, which it works a little differently in TSX, but it adds, you're throwing another log on the fire so it burns brighter. So we designed a number of products with this, all to do a couple of things to support the H pill or the NAD production of it, to support increasing telomeres. And those two things come together, and then you have a whole series of gene activation. So you see how complicated this is? And genes are like flipping on switches. That's the way they found. They didn't even know what a gene looked like until this last year. But anyway, now they do that. They can test things and see how they work with different types of genes and actually find out what the gene does with it. But nonetheless, that's for them to know. What I know about it is very applicable for your health and for building your business on a massive scale. So with that, we have products that you wouldn't even comprehend would have anything to do with it. Well, some you would, like Eternity. Eternity is really powerful for supporting sirtuin activity. That are the genes. Those are the genes that grew you. There's about 7 of them. Now, the most powerful ones, or the most influential ones, resveratrol, goes and passes on an electronic message to support the turning on of what has been slowed down or turned off. The H pill comes through. Some of the NAD does a whole bunch of ones that wasn't being done. So you put them both together. What have you got? Wham! You're 100% where you're supposed to be with this kind of thing. And so in comes Eternity with some other powerful properties on top of that. Now, what's happening with these things in the pot? And if you get back to look at the byproducts of it, brain vitality, dementia, Alzheimer's, good memory, all of those things that are going can be restored with the H pill to a large degree. Can't say it absolutely restored or have FDA, FTC on me, but the potential is incredible to do that. With Eternity, with resveratrol in it, now you have a chance to flip the switches. But with it, you have some other factors in there too, and those factors are some of what the H pill does, and some of what a few other compounds do, but they're very applicable to things like heart attack, cardiovascular disease. In fact, the University of Connecticut said that resveratrol it was cardioprotective. And what they said by that is if you get a heart attack, the damage comes after the heart attack. And so if you are on adequate doses of resveratrol, what they showed in their studies on these animal tests, so we can't say they apply to humans, haven't been tested on that yet, although they have been at University of Connecticut and a few other places. But nonetheless, it says the damage that occurs after the heart attack doesn't occur because of these bioflavonoids that are as part of the equations that there. And Eternity goes back to this discovery discovery that's found in the Ming Dynasty Emperor's tomb. It was evolutionary in the process, and the H-bill is evolutionary past eternity, but the two together, 1 and 1 is 3. And so that's the kind of thing you're getting. Then you take a look, and just this week, I looked at the system and the things that we're doing in inner chi for him or for her. And those two factors that are involved there, and if you read the studies that I published this week on that to show you, are directly correlated to supporting long telomeres again. So here we come back to telomeres. The other thing it does is it takes the hormones. It doesn't take it, but the body has, you have hormones, and you have androgenic, estrogenic hormones, and the ratio is about 20/80/20 between men and women. So we have the same, but just disproportionately differences in them. And as you increase those, those growth factors that are involved, not growth hormones necessarily, growth hormones is important. Growth factors are important too, but as you do those, what you have, your body is controlled and regulated by hormonal activity, isn't it? With it. Well, one thing that comes in that really has a tremendous effect on men and tremendous effect on women is a compound called DHT, or dihydrotestosterone. And it takes testosterone and estrogen, breaks them down, forms into dihydrotestosterone. That's one of the reasons why women have much more difficulty in their menstrual cycles because of that. And men, they have things like impotency, prostate enlargement, and male pattern baldness because of that. So we have a system that's within that now has been shown to support building long telomeres, but it also goes into the hormonal factors, and it's designed to support and keep DHT from the body's mechanisms that keeps DHT from forming out of testosterone. So I won't tell you all the things, but it's because they're not so important. But dihydrotestosterone, DHT, is testosterone, cholesterol, water. That's and an enzyme, 5-alpha reductase. That's what makes it. Now, I only tell you that to show you that these things that it's well known to me, and that's the important thing because my life is dedicated to you. So here we have all of these things, and from out of nowhere, like a meteorite, in comes the H2 hydrogen stick. What is hydrogen? It is what created most of this universe. It's what's in the photons that are coming down from the sun that creates all life on Earth. It's what NAD is converted to within the cell. It becomes biological hydrogen, which is converted to electrical energy within your cell. And you have a homeostasis. What that means is you have a cell, for instance, or a system. Homeostasis is the same, but within it, it has an optimal functioning potential. And so if you can attain homeostasis with it, then you can operate optimally with the cells, and you get lots of electrical energy, and your whole body's controlled by it. Without electrical energy in your body, you'd just be a pile of dust, just like that. So if that's going down, what's happened to your systems? You don't have the energy to put all this together again. And here we have the H-bill doing it, and along comes hydrogen, and it will go into every cell in the body from just drinking this. You let it react for 10-15 minutes in the bottle. If you do it, and you don't have to have plastic bottled water. You can have, in fact, actually metal ones are better because they don't lose those hydrogens quickly as the others do. So if you do that and you drink the hydrogen water, that hydrogen is the smallest atom, smallest molecule in the universe, and it can go through anything because it's small. Everything has molecular size, structure, weight, and hydrogen has molecular weight of 1, and everything else is based upon that. For instance, if you have something like lead, which has a molecular weight let's say it was one atom of lead is 400 to 500 somewhere. I don't know the exact number. But anyway, that means it's equivalent to, in size, to 400 to 500 of the hydrogen atoms. And so the smaller, the easier it gets through all those. There's nothing. Oxygen has a molecular weight of 15. So what can hydrogen do? Can it go through oxygen? Oh, yeah. It can go through anything. Go any tissue, anywhere. And now once it gets in the cells, guess what? The cells are already designed to use hydrogen. It's the last step before electrical energy. And when NAD discharges that off into the cell, then it's lost its hydrogen bond to it, so it gets discarded out. But my idea is, why should that happen? How about if you take diatomic hydrogen water and drink it, and that hydrogen goes into the cell, where you have expendable NAD. It's no longer NAD+. The plus stands for hydrogen. So you take NAD, and suddenly you introduce a hydrogen molecule, which is very reactive, even though the hydrogen bomb, this most powerful thing, the sun, the universe, all created on that power. And then in the cellular level, the molecule now comes to a spent NAD. And we think, this is a potential, we can't say this absolutely, because this science is far thinking, even beyond what scientific research, to my knowledge, are conceiving. But my mind works that way, and I conceive it. And it looks like, from everything I can put together, that it has a tremendous potential to recharge that NAD. And what does that mean? Now, if you're creating lots of it, but that which is being lost can be recycled again and again and again, what are you going to be? You're going to be, hopefully, everything you want to be with this kind of thing. Well, I've gone on for a long time. You asked me about my favorite product. You can see it's the H-pill. But look how many products we have that are supporting it. Who would have thought energy for him or energy for her would? Of course. But now you see it. You understand. Eternity does. The brain vitality does. And there are more with that. So as things are happening, we got a variety of products to go with it. I mean, you should take your super omega pluses, because that's what brain tissue, your neurological tissue is mainly made of, which that does. And that product, I've talked about that this week, but that product is the masterpiece of omegas. Now, omega-3s are not omega-3s. There's many varieties of them. Not everybody sells fish oil. We've got the whole spectrum and more. So what we have is we have about 5 different systems within that are creating not 5, but it's on a multiple factor where you look at it 25, 100, many times greater, because the total is greater than the sum of all the parts. And we can go on and on with all of these things. Now, when it's got bones, they don't need calcium. They need calcium K2 with all the major minerals that make up bones in the exact forms that the bone consists of. It doesn't have to be metabolized. It's already there. It just has to be broken down and carried to the system. So now I'm starting to bolt on pieces to this equation based upon the H-pill and everything that should be done. And then when it does what it does, then these systems come in and they supplement it in various areas that enhances the power of it, or provides the materials that are necessary for that to be achieved within the structure, function, tissue, organ of the body. Not talk, I'm just talking. This doesn't come for notes, as you can tell. But nonetheless, I do know what I'm talking about, and I do spend most of my day is on research. That's why I'm publishing so much. But you never hear about this stuff. And the CBD, just see the thing came along here, where they did a big report on how it's killing cancers. Of course, we can never make that claim because our product isn't tested to do it. But you know what, folks? CBD is CBD. So what is the potential? It's great. Man, I'm going to take it a couple of times and talk about being able to have a wonderful night's sleep. It is great. And aches and pains, and of course I haven't got many of those, but I have a son in a bad car wreck, and he says it's just marvelous for him. And other people are saying it from all over. So here comes another one that's on. What is waiting in the wings? Wait till I bring out the bomb. When you see the bomb, wait till you see when I bring out 10X, what it does. You'll say, holy cow, just when we thought it couldn't get any better, it's spectacular. And that's what we're doing. And you know what, folks? I'm doing it all for you because I believe in you. I believe in God, and I believe we have a mission to help each other within this world. And whether there was or wasn't, I still have the feelings that I want to do everything in my power to make people's lives better. So I'm not sitting here at my desk to make more money for me. I've made enough for my life. I'm sitting here to make my life worthwhile by helping you to make yours better. And that's the mission of Sisel. And I'm going to be around for a long, long time. So you better get your rear in gear because we're in momentum right now. Sales are going through the roof. We're having to change projections because we project this on a certain growth rate and we're just ripping right past it, especially in things like Sisel Rip and the H2 stick and the H pill and those kinds of things. And every time I talk about something like this on the internet, sales go up with whatever things I'm talking about because people don't realize this is not like what you can buy at the health food store. This is not like what you can buy off the internet. These products are spectacularly powerful and amazingly functional in comparison to the mediocre or products, for the most part, that really don't work at all that are being sold to you from the different suppliers and manufacturers around the country. And in closing, I just say that they took the FDA, went into major department stores and other places and internet and health food stores and picked 100 types of best-selling products in healthcare. And when they tested them, out of all of these product factors, they took 200 of the top ones. And when they got done testing them, they found out, and these were many companies for many different applications. You could have arthritis or fitness or anything, eyes, skin. When they got done, out of those 200 products, there was not a single one that had enough of the active ingredient to be considered a therapeutic dose. In fact, some of them had undetectable amounts. That means if you go to the records, it was put in, but it's like putting a drop of water in the ocean in comparison to the volume and expecting it to see the level rise. It's just not going to happen. So they use less than 1 part per million, but because it's put in, they can put it on the label and they can advertise it, and that's how they make their money. Well, I'm not going to make my money that way. I'm going to make your money by providing the most spectacular products the world has never seen before that are vastly superior to everything else, and giving you a compensation plan that is the most generous, fair, easy one to qualify. And if you'll just put down persistence, do it with a passion, work this thing, because the attitude and energy overcomes all obstacles. And so you put that together, you can have the dream life, you can have your dream body that you want. I believe, this is in my opinion, of course, have to qualify these statements, but it's on the drawing table. You just have to put it together and make it work. You need economic freedom. You need to get debts. You want to buy that dream home or get that car you've always wanted to have and put your kids through college and go on those vacations that are so wonderful that you only see on television or reading a magazine. It's all there for you, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do this. This is for everyone. We're like the Greyhound bus. Leave the driving to us. We've got this thing right. You just need to get on board and go with us, and it's there for you. Everything you want in life, I think, pretty well, not completely, but everything that you want in life is based upon what kind of a person you are physically, mentally. All of those things you want to live for a long time at a very young age, you're going to have to earn a lot of money to carry that extra 50 years or so that we might be throwing your way, or 75 for some, and maybe 100 for your baby that's throwing out there. So we've got it all here for you, and it is the opportunity of not your lifetime, of millions, billions of lifetimes. But you're one of the few that have it right now. So you have the great, in my opinion, for success, for health, for all those things you want to attain, you have got the perfect storm. This is your moment in time. This is the really big one that you will never see again. That's how I believe it for most of you with it. But you've got it right here in your lap. It is red hot. It is sizzling. So you need to go with the flow. Get red hot. Get sizzling. Get recruiting. Get training. But recruit, because we've got the products to do it with that no one else can compete with. So that's my, about an hour. That's my message for today.